So, repeating everything I just said, the prologue sets the stage, and it makes it very clear that Job is the most righteous man on the planet. That's the way they're phrasing it. There was a man, once upon a time in the land of Uz, there was a man named Job, who was blameless and upright, who feared God and turned away from evil. 4 things. Blameless. Blameless is blameless. Perfect is another word for it. Upright, feared God, and turned from evil. We've done everything. There's nothing to do about that. We've done incantations. We brought in shamans. It still couldn't crackle.
We could put something on the table to shield it.
I don't even touch the table and it crackles.
Yeah, it's static. That's what you were saying. And so if you put
The
any
plastic
static.
tables are really good at that.
Oh. Meanwhile, back on the ranch. So the numbers matter. And we played with this last time. 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 500 oxen, 500 donkeys. 7 and 3 being the operative numbers. And they would have these birthday parties. Because he had 3 sisters as well. And Job would consecrate them after their birthday parties, just in case they sinned. They hadn't sinned, but just in case they had. And this Job did continue. And then we get the story. This. Is that better? Yes. So, one day, the sons of God came to present themselves before Yahweh. Sons of God is a generic term referring to supernatural beings. That's what it means. It's what we would call angels. Okay. In the New Testament, they replace sons of God with the word angels. Angels technically is a specific category of supernatural being, a messenger. But by the time of the New Testament, it's a generic word, meaning any sort of supernatural being. So that Satan is described as a fallen angel, when technically he's a seraph, for example. But anyway, they kind of present themselves before Yahweh and the adversary. Now, we talked about this last time. It's right here in Hebrew. It has a definite article, which tells the word "the" attached to it, which tells us it's not a name. This is a title. Okay, the adversary. And it seems to be a job function within a king's court. Essentially, his job is to make sure that a king examines all sides of an issue before making a decision. So if they're talking about Sam, it's his job to bring up all the negative stuff about Sam before the king appoints him to a position, just so he knows that he's exhausted everything and he's not going to be surprised. That's the adversary. That's his job. And we have here, and that's the function he's playing with Job, if you'll notice. And notice how God opens the debate. It's God, Yahweh, that does this. Hey, where have you come from? Going up and down the earth. Have you considered my servant Job? This is so odd. Have you considered my servant Job? Notice the naming. What does God call Job? His servant. And he goes on to say, there's none like him in the earth. An upright man, a blameless man, upright, fears God, and turns from evil. The exact phrase that we had earlier. So God himself repeats exactly what the narrator told him. So now we know for a fact that Job is blameless, upright, fears God, and turns from evil. So that's pretty high praise. And this is when the devil, Satan, the adversary, says, well, I'll take that challenge. Does Job fear God for no reason? Take all this stuff away and let's see what happens. And God says, okay, you just can't touch him. So notice how he's going to do this. The wisdom literature, if you do what we say, you'll live long and you'll prosper. That's the core of it. Spock, live long and prosper. So we're going after the prosperity first. Let's take away his prosperity. Let's see what happens. So this takes a twist, though. Now, there was a day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the older brother's house. I don't know why I translated it that way. I'm going to change it. ESV blew this. This is better. So they're having a birthday party. Job's at his house. And messenger comes to Job. And we did this last time. Remember, while he was still talking, a guy came. Look, they came and they carried off all your donkeys and they killed the servants. I alone have escaped to tell you, while he was still speaking. And we get this repetition 4 times, which is standard in oral literature. In oral literature, they have patterns on how they do things to make it easy to repeat. So, for example, in the Iliad, every time you come to a new village, there's a certain pattern that unfolds. And it's part of this thing. So that if you're reciting it, you know what's supposed to occur. And you can go through the outline in your head and make sure you cover it all. And so this is just the Goldilocks and the 3 bears. And you have the things. And so usually it's a pattern of 3 in oral literature. And if you get a 4th one, the 4th one is usually the focus. So they get zapped. And all his kids get killed. That's what we didn't see coming. When the adversary said, "We'll take away his stuff, let's see what happens." God says, okay. We, the readers, didn't anticipate the kids getting killed. But they do, which means they die. That's pretty severe. But that means not only does Job suffer, but his wife suffers. She didn't even enter into the discussion. And that's on purpose. So the wisdom movement, these people were pretty smart. And they thought about these things. And you're worried about how it affects Job. What about his wife? What about his kids? These are the ancillary questions that the wisdom movement wants to address. And so you're sitting there, and Job loses everything. He arises, goes through a typical morning ritual, said, "Look, naked I came from my mother's womb, naked shall I return there." Notice that. Shall I return there? What's he not addressing? His wife or the kids? They've just been killed. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job did not sin. Now that's an appraisal by the narrator. And you have to take that seriously. He didn't sin. And he didn't charge God with wrongdoing. Not from the author of Job's perspective. Because it's clear that Job is blaming God here. I mean, that's just, he is. He's in charge. And the narrator says, he's not accusing God of sin. God's in control. So this stuff falls under God's purview. And perfectly normal. Now we're going to do it again. What?
Go back up to verse. That word, the 4, down there in 22. So that NIV, it says, did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing.
Okay.
So they're implying that the sin would have been if he had accused God, the way I read it.
In all this, Job did not sin. And he did not give unseemliness, you see down at the bottom, to God. That's literally what it says. So how you connect the two clauses, up to you. I want the RSV did. Yeah, they're all doing it or. So, so he did not sin, and he did not give to God this offensiveness. Didn't attribute to God any of that. All right. So the heavenly beings come back, the sons of God, and the adversaries are with them. And it's a verbatim repetition. And that's in the Bible. The Bible loves repetition. And when you get it, what you want to focus on are the differences. So if this is an exact repetition, how is it different? It's usually an addition, an omission, or a substitution. One of those three. I mean, what else can it be? And you want to focus on that because that's the point that the author is making. Well, here what we get is the secondary discussion changes. I've considered my servant Job. There was no one like him on the earth, and he repeats it. So notice he's blameless, upright, fears God, turns away from evil. After already saying, naked I came from my mother's womb. All that's still true according to God. Okay. He persists in his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him. And this is the key thing, for no reason. If you listen to people teach on Job, it staggers me how often they come up with a reason. They want to provide a reason for why all this happened to Job. He was a man he didn't have faith. He blamed God, something. And he makes it very clear, it's for no reason. God does not come off looking good in this. Because how do you destroy him? His word to destroy him for no reason. Things that make you go, And this is what I want you to see. This is the ancient world. And these guys, life, they know how fragile and random life can be. They just do. Well, what do you know? A hailstone killed him. Who saw that coming? Bashed in the side of the head by a hailstorm. Stone. Nobody saw that coming. How's that right? And it's this it's the randomness of life that they're focusing on. As a rule, if you do what we say, you'll live long and prosper. But every once in a while, you get hit by a bus or a hailstone.
Very different today, because I think today, when something goes wrong in someone's life, we automatically tend to pile on, and we tend to assign fault. It's like, well, if they wouldn't have done this and this and this, that wouldn't have happened, or they should have known better from that and that and that, and I appreciate how that ancient world kind of got the randomness of life, because I think in modern day we tend to find fault, and it's an easy target to pile on to people when they've been struck by whatever awful things.
Well, let me make clear. It's the wise people who recognize the randomness. The average person doesn't. In fact, the whole point of the book of Job will be how the three friends are in fact piling on. Now you deserve this. And he's literally going, what the heck did I do? So we'll see that in a minute. So
I don't understand that.
Hard to blame somebody with the hailstone, except maybe you couldn't have been walking outside in the.
Well, fair enough. But you mind your own business and you get attacked by a roaming band of, warriors. I mean, who sees that coming? I don't, put it that way. So Satan answered Yahweh, skin for skin. You wouldn't let me touch him. You only let me touch his stuff. Stretch out your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he'll curse you to your face. You don't think you can get him I can get him to curse you? Let me go after him. And I love this. She always says, okay. Now, if I'm Job, I would have said, do I get a word in this? Yeah, very well. You can't kill him, though. You can do whatever you want, you just can't kill him. So, the adversary goes out, and he inflicted loathsome sores on Job from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head. Job's taking a potsherd, just found a piece of broken pottery, and is scraping himself. And he sits among the ashes. One of the wealthiest men in the world, and this is what he's doing. Yes. Then his wife speaks up. Do you still persist in your integrity? Curse God and die. It literally says, bless God and die. And he goes, no, you're talking like a stupid woman. So we take the good from hand of God and not the bad. And all this, Job did not sin with his lips. What he's pointing out is attributing this to God. Job's not sinning. And to make sense of what the friends are going to say, he has to insist, Job's not sinning here. This is all undeserved. That's why this is a parable. Okay, because it's hypothetical. And the idea is it's undeserved. What does that do to our theology if it's undeserved? And Job's got three friends. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. They met together to console and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they didn't recognize him. They raised their voices and wept aloud. They tore their robes and threw dust in the air upon their heads. And then they just sat down on the ground. They did what a good friend would do. They don't say anything. They just sit down with him and just be with him. Because what do? Oh my God, your kids are dead. You've lost everything. That would be tough. You lost your job. Your kids are dead. They just sit there with him for a week. That's pretty loyal. No one spoke a word because I saw how great was his suffering. So that's how the story gets set up. And Job's finally going to say something after a week. Notice it's a week. The numbers matter. He's setting this up. So, well, this sucks. You can just see Job saying that. And the friends are just sitting there. We've all been that friend that had to comfort somebody. And we've learned the hard way. Don't say anything, just be. That's all you can do. Job opened his mouth and he cursed the day of his birth. Let the day perish in which I was born. And the night that said a man child is conceived. Let that day be darkness. May God above not seek it, or light shine on it. Let gloom and deep darkness claim it. Let clouds, okay, you get the thrust. He's going to hammer this. Egad, let that night be barren, no joyful cry. Yuck. Why didn't I die at birth? So now we're feeling his agony. Now remember, this is all poetry. The story has changed. This is poetic ruminations of the author of Job, whoever he is. And he's dealing with people died all the time in the ancient world, as you know. But untimely deaths were very common. Didn't make them less painful. And he's really hammering it. I wish I had never been born. That's the thrust of this thing. And he's going to explore it in depth for a whole chapter. Why were there needs to receive me, or breasts for me to suck? Now I'd be lying down and quiet. I'd be asleep. Then I'd be at rest. And kings and counselors of the earth who rebuild ruins for themselves, or princes who have gold and fill their houses with silver. Why was I not buried like a stillborn child? That's all he said. Why? There's not a whole, I can't add anything. He's just hammering that theme over and over. He goes on and on and on. From my sign comes like my bread. For my sign comes like my bread. My groanings are poured out like water. Truly the thing that I fear come upon me. Now this, in the stupider readings of Job I've encountered, people latch onto this verse. That which I feared came upon me. See, if he hadn't feared, it wouldn't have happened to him. And I just pointed out, said multiple times, he did not sin with his lips. Remember, he did not sin. No, this is not what happens. It was an unjust event that happened to Job. Unjust. That's the whole point of the story. He did not cause it. I am not at ease, nor am I quiet. I have no rest, but trouble comes. Now his wife's gone. She doesn't show up in the story until the very end. Now, so it's just Job and his three friends. They're just sitting there. And he's going, I wish I'd never been born. Eliphaz, Timnite answered. Remember, the pattern's going to be Job, friend 1, Job, friend 2, Job, friend 3, and then we'll repeat that cycle. And then we'll repeat it a third time. So it's a strong cycle. And they are long monologues. Eliphaz's speech is 2 chapters long, the one we're starting. These are long monologues. This is not conversation. If one ventures a word with you, will you be offended? But who can keep from speaking? You've instructed many. You've strengthened the weak hands. Your words supported those who were stumbling, and you'd made firm the feeble knees. But now that it's happened to you, you're impatient. It touches you and you're dismayed. It's not your fear of God, your confidence and the integrity of your ways, your hope. You hear what he's saying to him? Think now, who that was innocent ever perished. This doesn't happen. God doesn't zap the innocent. And this is going to be key. Or where were the upright cut off? It doesn't happen, Job. God doesn't zap the innocent. But we, the readers, know, well, actually, he did here. That's the whole point. As I've seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. So here's his friend. God doesn't zap the innocent. You're going through this. The only reasonable conclusion is you did something wrong. We just don't know what it is. And you need to own up to it. And Job's going, what? Can you imagine that conversation? As I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. By the breath of God they perish, and by the blast of his anger they are consumed. The roar of the lion, the voice of the fierce lion, the teeth of the young lions are broken. The strong lion perishes for lack of prey, and the whelps of the lioness are scattered. Now, he goes in a weird direction here. So far, okay, fine. You're defending the standard position is that God doesn't zap innocent people. But look where he goes here. Now a word came stealing to me. My ear received the whisper of it. So someone's whispering to me. Amid the thoughts from visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on mortals, dread came upon me, and trembling, which had made all my bones shake. A spirit glided past my face. He had a vision of a supernatural entity. People reading Job don't usually catch this. That's what he's talking about. It made the hair of my flesh bristle. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes. There was silence, and then I heard a voice. Can mortals be righteous before God? Can human beings be pure before their maker? The obvious answer is no. Even in his servants, he puts no trust. And his angels, he charges with error. Nobody's perfect. That's what this supernatural being is teaching Eliphaz here. How much more those who live in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, who are crushed like a moth. Between morning and evening, they are destroyed. They perish forever without any regarding. Their tent cord is plucked from within them, and they die devoid of wisdom. So he gets, now the reason why this matters, because I'm going to go ahead and do a spoiler alert. The whole point of the book of Job is he goes through all this, and there are no answers, bottom line. The friends give standard wisdom responses, and Job's response is, well, yeah, that may be true, but I still didn't do anything. And whatever I did, it didn't deserve this. That's ultimately where it's going to go. Yeah, I may not have been perfect, but I didn't deserve having all my kids wiped out and my stuff taken. No way. No way does it measure up to that. And as we're going to see, and we'll get to it at the end, God's finally going to talk to Job. And the response is going to be, oh, I didn't know what I was talking about. I was talking about the idea of God and not about God. And when he has the encounter with God, it changes everything. Now, the reason why I bring that up now is the first friend begins with a supernatural encounter, which is one of the things that Job is heading after, is that firsthand experience trumps theoretical knowledge, if you will. Your theory is nice, but this is what I've actually experienced. And the friends having that experience, and it's not fitting with what they've been said or been told. And so we'll come back to that. I just wanted to point that out to you. So, now this goes on, there's chapter 5, still part of his response. Eliphaz's response. How happy is the one whom God reproves. Therefore, do not despise the discipline of the Almighty. He just killed my kids. This kind of goes beyond discipline, but nevertheless. For he wounds, but he binds up. He strikes, but his hands heal. He will deliver you from 6 troubles. In 7, no harm shall touch you. All my kids are dead. What do you mean no harm will touch me? In famine, he will redeem you from death, and in war from the power of the sword. You shall be hidden from the scourge of the tongue, and shall not fear destruction when it comes. It goes on in this vein for a while. See, we have searched it out. It is true. Hear and know it for yourself. That's where he's going. Okay, fine. That's not even the first cycle. It's just friend 1 of the first cycle. We're going to stop here because it's 10:14. Stop share. So I hope you're going to find this interesting. It's challenging. I would encourage you to read the book as we go through it and think about it and come up with your own questions. And stop.